joining us today. We are honored and delighted to be here talking about a topic that we are all deeply passionate about, supporting the LGBTQ community. My name is Michelle Fleming. I am a knowledge broker with the Ontario CLRI at Bruyere. I will be moderating the webinar today. The Ontario CLRI strengthen quality of life and care for residents across the province. The Ontario CLRI is mandated by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care to be a resource for the sector by providing education and sharing research and innovations to enhance the health and well-being of people who live and work in long-term care. This webinar is the first in a series of 2. I wanted to let you know that we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. If you have questions throughout, please type them into the question box and we'll try to get to as many as we can. I would also like to mention that we have developed a few handouts that are available for you to download along with a PDF of the slides. You can find them in the sidebar. This webinar is being recorded and a link to the recording along with the handouts will be sent out within a week of the webinar to all the registrants. I'd also like to mention that at the end of the webinar, a survey will pop up and we would really appreciate if you could take a few moments to provide us with feedback as this helps us with our planning. Today we welcome Rick Gourley, a retired long-term care administrator who will be sharing with us lessons he learned during his multi-year award-winning MAD poster project. Rick is a passionate storyteller with a tremendous heart and a desire to make the world a better, more inclusive space. Rick, welcome and thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Michelle. I am honored and also a little nervous to be here today to have this opportunity to share the journey that I've taken towards supporting LGBT communities in long-term care. You could be joining us for this webinar because you might have attended our presentation that we did at Advantage Ontario last month, and if that's the case, nice to see you again. If you weren't there, we're really glad that you're here, so you found your way, and we want to start off by sharing just a little bit personal about ourselves. Michelle?
I am what I am. I am Michelle Fleming of Irish and French descent, born in Sudbury. When I was 14, my best friend who is gay attempted suicide due to the constant homophobic bullying that he experienced. He was the first peer I visited in hospital, and although he survived, this experience lit a fire in my belly that will never go out. I could not understand how people could be so cruel to someone so kind. I have been a fierce ally ever since. I am a cisgender, 36-year-old straight married woman with an imaginative 3-year-old daughter. I am an ally. My pronouns are she and her. I am what I am.
Thanks, Michelle. And I'm Rick Gourley. I am what I am. I am Scottish and British descent, born in Kingston during the 50s, raised in Napanee during the 60s, left home as soon as I could to get out or so I could come out during the 70s. I spent much of the 80s and 90s supporting friends who I watched and loved ones as they died of AIDS. Now for me, I have to be honest, sexual preference is no one's business but my own. And I truly believe that. What happens in my bedroom is personal. Yet, after many years of working in long-term care, I have come to the sad realization that my bedroom becomes public the minute I'm admitted into long-term care. The pronouns I use are he and him, and I'm here today to begin an attitude change so I can help you to help others to live honestly and bravely while in care. For I believe that life is not worth a damn till you can shout out loud, I am what I am.
We have just shared some very personal things about ourselves. We did this because our topic today is very personal. We have demonstrated a willingness to be open and vulnerable and to discuss what is otherwise kept private. Our goal is to start a conversation and inspire you to do the same in your care home and around your dinner table at home. Efforts towards change begin with the willingness to be vulnerable and open ourselves.
Yeah, this webinar is going to focus on how you can take some simple steps towards breaking silence and hopefully the fear around this topic. So today we're going to take a lens of inclusivity and inclusivity to all. So our purpose is to, as stated in our title, to create a home for everyone. And we really want to provide you with some practical strategies that you can implement in your home to foster a more inclusive space for LGBT community. And we'll be talking about some taboo topics as we welcome and encourage you to be vulnerable with us within your questions. So I want to start off by saying, I'm a really good Canadian, so I'm just going to say right up front, I'm really sorry. I apologize. No, but it's true. Language is probably one of the most difficult things you can get to. So today we're going to be using terms and acronyms, and I have to be honest, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do it all correctly, but I'm going to try my best. And there may be times when I make an error or I say something wrong, or I'm going to try not to, but I might cuss. I hope not. No, really. Today, a little nervous, that's all, Michelle. We're talking about the LGBT community. So when I say LGBTQ, that is the term that we're going to be using from this point on. In fact, there is a much larger acronym. I think Rainbow Health had a whole hour-long topic on it. There's many resources that you can go to, and to be honest, even within the community, there's no real agreement on what that acronym should be. We provided a glossary of terms by email ahead of the webinar, so it's available for you for download or also in the sidebar. If we mention a term that you're not familiar with, like Michelle did earlier when she talked about being a cisgender, go ahead, look it up on the handouts that we've given you, and this will provide you a better reference. We'll focus our time today to explore the project that I led within the City of Ottawa long-term care home. So that kind of brings us to why we're here right now. I don't know if you've noticed, but lately there's been a lot of media articles that highlight the fact that there are LGBTQ individuals who are living in the community right now who are in fear that they're going to have to go back into the closet by stopping to openly acknowledge their sexual orientation out of fear of discrimination and abuse when they move into long-term care homes. And so studies estimate that approximately 10% of the population in Canada are LGBTQ. Yet in recent years, researchers have documented that the rates of depression, anxiety, and chronic disease are higher among LGBTQ seniors when compared to straight or cisgender peers. Many have experienced a lifetime of oppression. So LGBTQ adults also encounter significant barriers when accessing inclusive healthcare. And this is stigma, discrimination, structural barriers. And remember, LGBTQ individuals have been cut off often from their family of origins. So they end up very reliant on friends and families of choice, as they may have no children to support them or advocate for them while they're in care.
We are now going to run our first of 3 polls because we'd like to hear a little bit from you. We are curious, what percentage of openly LGBTQ residents live at your care home currently? Please take a moment to select the option that you feel reflects your care home's current reality. We'll give you about 45 seconds to answer the poll. So your options are more than 20%, 10 to 20%, 5 to 9%, 1 to 4%, or none.
Today, I'm thrilled.
Okay,
Nice.
so it looks like the majority of you have selected the answer of E, being none.
None.
The second most common answer was between 1 to 4%. And the percentage there is, so 33% of you said 1 to 4,
Okay.
and 40% of you said none. Then 8% of you selected 5 to 9%. And then 8% selected 10 to 20%. Sorry, I'm 10% said more than 20%. Very interesting. Thank you for your honesty.
Yeah, so weird, eh? Like the highest percentage is in the lowest numbers. So imagine if 1 in 10 or 1 in 16 are LGBTQ in the community, it only would make sense then that within long-term care, there must equally be the same number, but they're just not telling people. So the truth is, they must not feel comfortable to tell you who they are. Now, I have to be honest and tell you, it's probably not your fault right now, so don't feel bad. Healthcare setting is in many cases a don't ask, don't tell situation. Healthcare providers typically just don't ask. They don't have the written forms, and there's no option for residents to identify themselves. So if you don't have it set up at the intake, nobody's just going to come forward with it, because disclosure could potentially be dangerous to the person or the healthcare professional, especially if they have some form of a negative attitude towards LGBTQ. So many LGBTQ individuals are fearful of discrimination. So they just don't disclose. I mean, they may have had negative experiences, or they may have heard of others who have had horrid experiences that they often share with each other. So we have the perception right now that within Canada, I mean, it's a pretty great place to live within the world, and that would be true. However, even within Canada, the rates of violence against LGBTQ individuals is shocking. Particularly upsetting are the rates to which trans individuals experience violence and harassment, and that's in Canada. So we can't talk about LGBTQ in long-term care without talking about a historical context. And the reason for that is because if you talk to young people today about homosexuality, they're just going to look at you kind of like you got three heads and say that, like, I don't get it. I mean, most have LGBTQ friends. I have a 10-year-old who said she's going to marry her little 10-year-old friend. I don't think they will, but anyways, you may have learned about gender identity. They have a gender expression, all of that through school. But let's go back in time and reflect on the experiences of today's older adults in the context of our history in which they grew up under the oppression of intense homophobia. So let's imagine that we have a resident and his name is John and he was born in 1925. So that means John's 94 years old today. Congratulations, John. And it would mean, though, that John would have been 42 years old before sex between two consenting same-sex adults was decriminalized in Canada. So up until he was 42, he could have been thrown in jail for the person that he fell in love with. And so he would have been 48-year-old when homosexuality was no longer classified in the DSM as a mental illness. And he would have been 67 years old before his friend who worked in the military service, for example, would have had the ability to also come out. And he would have been 80 years old before marriage was legalized for same-sex couple. So just for a second, try and imagine what it would be like to have grown up and lived with the fear well into adulthood that you could have gone to jail for simply kissing the wrong person. This spring marked 50 years since the Stonewall Uprising, and that's an interesting thing to Google. It was a series of demonstrations by members of the LGBT community against the police raids at Stonewall Inn. These demonstrations are widely considered to be the most important event ever, leading to gay liberation movements. Times and attitudes have changed significantly over the last 50 years, and thank goodness. But again, if you ask your grandchildren about it, they're going to say, I don't get it. I don't get it, Uncle Rick. What's the big deal? They simply said, it points out the chasm between the youth of today and their understanding of what is appropriate, as opposed to what their grandparents, who are currently now living in long-term care, think of. Leaders in your homes, it falls to you to set a platform where change can occur so that inclusion for all can be fostered. Stop the silence. Begin talking. Have conversations in long-term care. Talk to your management teams and your staff about how you could improve supports to LGBT community. We need to talk about recognizing the benefits that this will then create for everyone living in care. And I have to say that long-term care is like no other institution. I mean, it's really not. You are responsible for providing care while creating a home-like environment for all walks of life and lifestyles, and the only commonality shared by the people within your home population is their basic need for care. Now consider that you might have a reformed criminal sharing a room with a college professor or a preacher sharing with a pedophile. I mean, you're regulated and required to provide an environment where every individual lives in harmony with each other. Now that might sound difficult because it is, let's face it. I mean, these are especially difficult times. Nations are divided and people, I believe there's never been a more important time to show strong and ethical leadership. You are the leaders in your home, so set the tone in your home, which impacts everyone living in there. So to this goal, I'm going to share with you the project that I conducted at a 161-bed care home with a 40-bed day project. The project created in response to a call that came from the LGBT community who were living not in long-term care. And they came to the mayor and told him that long-term care is not ready for the approaching gay and gray seniors who will be moving into the care homes, and they are not going to quietly change their behaviors the minute they move back into long-term care. So we had to recognize that the world is changing and there's some lessons that we need to learn along the way. So I wasn't quite sure what we could do, but I'm going to share with you what I did. And I just want you to know that you can take any part of this at any point and start your project or stop your project. There's no right way to do this. If you are striving to create a home where people feel loved and free to express themselves, to live the life that they want to live up to and including their death, it's important then that we look at what obstacles this creates. So the approach to the Mad Poster project that I took began with a cab ride from New York City. And I was riding from the airport back into downtown, and I was looking at everything. I was just thrilled to be there. And all of a sudden, bang, out of the darkness in the tunnel, I read this incredibly hateful, homophobic message. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's black, it's totally black. And then the headlights hit this white lettering that's like, oh my God, gosh, really, is that what they're doing? But no matter how I tried, I couldn't stop the feeling that suddenly I wasn't safe. It inspired me. So I decided that I'd create the same opportunity for the staff within the care home to write their mad graffiti, to write their hate speech if they had to. So I created a Mad Poster project. My option was that, or my belief was that hate and love both have a voice. It's just whoever is stronger that you listen to. I also believe that hatred lives kind of in the dark. It lives in that little part of your brain in the recesses where hate goes unchallenged. I believe the darkness of hate can only be overcome with enlightenment and knowledge. Consider a room that is filled with light. When you open a closet door, the darkness of the closet doesn't enter the room. Instead, the dark is driven out by the light that enters the closet. And I want you as leaders to be the light that enters that closet. So first we accessed the City of Toronto's LGBT toolkit. And I have to say, it's a great resource. The leadership team took this on and we changed all the forms, rewrote the policies and made it to be inclusive. The toolkit is an excellent resource. However, it was designed and created in response to a need that was identified from LGBTQ residents that were living within the home at the time. Whereas the home that I was running, I mean, it was silent. We had zero population and no concerns from the LGBTQ. I couldn't help but feel that more than simply changing policies and changing forms was needed if we were going to be successful to create a home where everyone would be free to be who they are and live the life that they want to live. So we created the Mad Poster projects, and the ones that we did posted up scenarios, and then I added to them answers to the scenarios. And then we hung pens on a string and put them up beside the posters so that people would have an opportunity to participate. The posters were professionally printed on large poster boards, and I hung them in the basement of the care home. And I picked this location particularly because it kind of reminded me of the tunnel in New York. It's a location that was not accessed by visitors. It's not accessed by residents. Managers seldom go down. So, you know, the part in your care home, wherever the laundry room or the housekeeping staff or whatever. So I posted up these posters on the wall and hung the pens, and I asked people questions and provided markers so they could write their graffiti responses. An explanation was posted and staff were encouraged to comment honestly on each poster. Now, just before this, what I did, at the staff meeting before, I showed a 1 minute and 23 seconds black and white video, and it was the Boys Beware homosexual warning video circa 1960, and I think that's in your list of resources. Anyways, it's a great little 60-second black and white clip kind of talks like those old NFB films do, talking about the bad homosexuals. So anyways, when I showed this, at the end of it, I simply said, and I'm going to put up some posters in the basement and I want you to participate with them. So we posted the posters up and people started coming and saying a few things to me like, oh, they should come down. And I was like, oh, well, you know, the posters are staying up. It's a good project. At the next staff meeting, I showed the Gen Silent trailer, which is a short video, which also has a discussion about LGBTQ moving into long-term care. And after each of the little videos that I showed, we had a short discussion, but not very long at all. We needed to move on. Time in staff meetings is precious. So I simply, when the staff came and said they wanted the posters taken down, I simply said that they were staying up for 3 months. And if they had a problem with what people were writing on the posters, then there's nothing to stop them from picking up a pen and writing their own message right beside it. Now, it was interesting that I had a lot of staff who came up and loudly told me how they didn't like the posters, but I also had a lot of quiet staff who came up after and simply in a hushed tone told me how family members or others and how that they thought this project had merit and that they said that I should be brave, keep the posters up. Now in the 3rd month, I did take the posters down and I took them immediately into a printer and had them printed professionally so that all the graffiti and all the messaging, both hate and love, were now printed in formal font. And it was interesting because it took that rant away and the hate that was there became overpowered by the number of positive messages that were put out by other staff. It gave passive or weak the same power as the bully, or at least that's what I believe. After the poster project began, I started to realize that in many ways, I needed to have a less formal communication process. I couldn't keep taking up time in staff meetings. There just wasn't enough time. So I decided that I would travel around from unit to unit and I would have what I called 5-minute meetings. Now, if anybody knows in long-term care, if you're going to say, I'm going to have a meeting, the first thing everyone's going to tell you is, I don't have time. and they'd be right, they would. So I had to be a little bit smarter than that. So I decided that on an ad hoc basis, I would jump from unit to unit to have discussion meetings, and 5-minute meetings is all they were. And so I would go onto the unit, ask when it would be a good time to have a meeting. We're too busy. What's a better time to have a meeting? And then I would book for that time. I would then either bring an egg timer with me for 5 minutes, or I would ask a staff member to be the timer for me. And they love to tell you when to stop talking, or at least me. Anyways, at first the staff didn't want to come to these little silly meetings. They didn't want to, but after a bit, they actually started to become quite popular. People liked just having a meeting where they could just sit and talk about a video that was being shown or something that they'd heard about. And it was really quite great. We talked LGBTQ issues. We talked about the video and how that, the impact it had. And along the process, we started to realize that there were people who had stories to tell. It really was important to stop the silence. The project was a multi-year project. So don't think that, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that. Don't. Just do one little thing and start with that. By using the project over a multi-year, it did allow for a sense of settling into it. Discussions in the home areas became more robust. And admittedly, not every conversation was the conversation I wanted to hear. There were lots of staff members who came to me complaining about the home and what it was becoming. You know, I had staff members, one guy came to me and said, I have to leave. I can't stay here. You're trying to create some kind of a weird haven for the homosexuals. I can't be here. Next thing, all these men will be in dresses and women will be wearing plaid. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I just thought, oh, so I said to him, so let me get this right. What you're saying is that if we create a place where people are able to be and act the way they are, that's a bad thing? And so I said, but like that's just weird. It sounds to me that we have a home that we would be creating that would have no judgments, a place where individuals would be free to express honestly who they are. And if that's a bad thing, then yeah, I think you're right. Maybe you should transfer somewhere else. I had a lot of staff who walked away muttering I was an absolute fool. And I don't know, they might have been right, but I felt that it was important to be brave.
So now it's time for our next poll. We are curious to find out how many of the long-term care homes participating in this webinar have already done some LGBTQ cultural competency training. Please take a moment to answer if you have done training, or if you have not yet done so but plan to, or no with no plans as of yet. Please select yes, even if only a handful of individuals from your organization have done some training. The next question will look at the actual percentage of the team members trained. We wanted to point out to you as well that in the resource package we provided, we've listed several organizations that deliver this training throughout Ontario. Some organizations will conduct free training that's delivered in person by volunteers with lived experience, and others will offer training on a cost recovery basis. There are also some e-module trainings and recorded webinars on this topic that are available and listed in the handout. So if you're looking to explore the training opportunities out there, hopefully our resource package makes that process a little bit easier. We know that training in long-term care can be a challenge, as often there are not the financial resources available to provide backfill. All right, so let's, interesting results. So 42% of you have said yes. Some of your team members have undergone this training. 35% say not yet, and 23% say no.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So now the next question that we're going to look at is the percentage of your team. So for those of you who have done the training, please, if you could select from these various options. We know that some homes in Ontario have made this training part of their mandatory training and have had a full complement of their team trained. Some homes have also extended this training to volunteers as well. Some other homes are just beginning and have started with certain departments being trained first, or just with senior leadership starting off. So yeah, we'll just give you a couple more seconds to select your options.
42%, that's pretty good, eh?
Yeah, 42% say yes, that's pretty good.
So if we just stayed at that, we'd think we had almost half of our staff trained.
Some staff at each
right,
yeah,
right.
Half of the homes have done some training.
Half the home.
That's wonderful.
It's way better than I thought it would be, to be honest, Michelle. That's
Me
good.
too. That's great.
Nice.
Yeah, and one thing that's nice is that the organizations that provide training, they are sort of scattered in various locations throughout Ontario, often sort of centered in urban settings, but some of these organizations are a little bit flexible and can travel to you. There's one organization that is on our list that's actually based in Manitoba, you'll see, but I contacted them and they said they are willing and able to provide training to Northwestern Ontario. So if you are in rural Northwestern Ontario, you can connect with them.
Nice.
Okay, so let's let you know the breakdown of percentages. So the majority are in the 1 to 49%. So 42% say 1 to 49%. Okay. There's another 40% that said none, and that's okay. You're here learning today, which is fantastic. 9% of you have said 100%. Wow. Kudos. And then 4% said 75 to 99, and 6% said 50 to 74. Wow. Excellent. Thank you for answering that honestly.
Yeah, that's excellent. Incredible. Mm-hmm. I'm really pleased. So I'm surprised because I was expecting that there would be lower numbers, but I mean, as we know, in long-term care, I had no money to provide additional staff for training, so I had no backfill money. So I had to get creative. So I reached out to the Ottawa Senior Pride Network, who were happy to provide me with training, and they did excellent training at no charge. However, what I did was on the training day, I broke the training. I asked the trainers to break it down into a 20-minute training session, and that 20-minute session played all day. I then asked the managers to book their staff in 20-minute slots so that all of their staff who were on shift that day at one point would be able to attend the training. Now, on heavy days, when the manager was told that they couldn't be relieved off the floor, I simply told the manager, then you have to work on the floor, as that's where leadership starts. And it was an easy, cheap, and very impactful way to do the training. The intent of these training sessions was not to change one's culture or religious belief, but rather to simply emphasize that once you enter your place of work, there's the expectation that you are professional, meaning that you treat everyone with the dignity and the respect that each human being merits. And it's not only the right to do, as the right thing, but it's also the legal thing to do under the Canadian Charter of Freedoms and Rights, and also the Ontario Long-Term Care Home Act and the Residents' Bill of Rights, as well as I'm sure as if you looked in your home policies. So training modules were conducted on the family meeting rooms. So posters were posted in the main area. So now I've moved it from the basement to now when we're doing the training, we're moving up now onto the main floor and inviting families, residents, and volunteers or visitors or anyone who wants to attend the training. And we posted the signs up what time it was. And it was kind of remarkable to me how well the staff responded to a quick video, a short discussion, and the staff were scheduled in and scheduled out, and everyone on shift was able to attend, and that created some great 5-minute meetings on the units. The second training module that we did was easier for the managers because they were able to manage it better. They were now more familiar with the sessions, and as we went along, this even got easier. However, the topic wasn't as interesting. The terminology and history of LGBTQ kind of left the attendees flat. Also, the language that they used was complicated and involving, and I mentioned that earlier at the beginning. And one example of this is that during these trainers used the words queer. And as such, it was, we know that this is a word being reclaimed by the LGBTQ individuals, particularly the youth, in an effort to normalize it. However, for the staff, they were offended. There are, however, always people that get offended, and we just move on, trying hopefully that they will see the wisdom. We had lots of times when we posted up the posters, we had all of these questions that came up, and I'd never really thought about them before. They were truly coming from a place of innocence, and yet at the same time, possibly offensive. One of the questions that I truly think is a perfect question to understand where the staff come from is a lesbian gay? And the reason I love that question is because it's just not a question that I would have ever thought of. So questions like that, along with other places where being gay can put you in jail, or why is pink a gay color? So we went in, then I created the did you know or you asked about poster project. So I morphed the MAD poster project into a did you know poster. And the poster projects and the conversations that they created had given team members permission now to talk about and ask questions that they had previously only kind of had floating in the back of their mind. The posters had now become a communication tool to prompt discussions and create better understandings of everyone for everyone. And it was clear that we had now normalized this message, which just a few years ago was seen as audacious leadership. So one of my favorite things to do is to incorporate YouTube in a staff meeting. And I know you're going to say I'm really pushed for time, but try this. Just seriously, just try this. Find in a staff meeting a great way to expand people's understanding and encourage dialogue. Robin Sharma does a leadership training process. He's like Anthony Robbins. And he talks about starting and stopping your staff meetings with music. And so that people dance, people sing. And he does Tim McGraw's Live Like You're Dying. He also does Leanne Womack's I Hope You Dance, and other songs like that he utilizes. And Robin believes that music can transcend. So I decided, what the heck, I might as well see if this works. And I've showed the Macklemore and Ryan Lewis video, The Same Love. And I have to say, it's about a 5-minute, 20-second video. And it starts off with two boys when they're little boys, and it shows two men dying in an acute care setting. It's perfect. So when we did this, I then had a very short discussion afterward during the staff meeting, but it was really where I went on the units and held the 5-minute meetings when staff got a chance to talk about it. And many staff said, like, I've heard this song, my kids play it all the time. I didn't know what it was talking about. It kind of helped bring it back. So months later, I played the Mary Lambert's She Keeps Me Warm. And it was funny because it was playing, and you know how you just kind of let it go, and I was kind of dancing away in the corner, I would say like shuffling, and my housekeeper got up and started to shuffle around with me too. It was sweet. It later I showed the Madonna and the Queen Latifah the same love where at the Grammys in 2014 where they all stood up and she had these people who got married. And all I said at that meeting was, it's clear culture is changing and we need to recognize that change as out LGBTQ people are getting older and they are moving into long-term care. Now, I have to say that I have learned many lessons along the way from when I started this project. There is no easy one-step manual, no webinars on how to do this. So I was charting my own path, trying to figure out, is this going to be impactive? Will this be what my life is about? Will I move into long-term care and suddenly pretend that I don't have a husband? I don't want to. I decided instead that even if this isn't effective, it's worth a try. I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I simply got to be honest and tell my story. I was trying my best. I decided to create a human library by inviting out LGBTQ authors or people into the home. I posted up posters at the front door inviting now residents, families, staff, others to come to the human library. I put out free coffee, treats, placed a big pride flag, and I had 2 authors who came to the care home. Now, the human library, I have to be honest, I stole that from CBC. I was listening to it and I thought, well, actually, that's a really good idea. I believe that it's easy to hate someone without putting a face to it, but when you know someone, it becomes a lot harder to say, yeah, I don't like that. The response that I got from the human library, I have to be honest, it was not great. That was my fault, I think. And the reason was because I just didn't tell people what a human library project was about. So they kind of were like floundering, trying to figure it out. So when I did my second human library and invited my authors in, prior to that, I posted out a small little handouts that were like tear-offs that talked about what a human library was, what the intention was. The intention or the idea that I'm going to do this and it's going to be perfect every time is not real. The human library was not perfect the first time. The second time was much better and it gets better. It depends a lot on whose books you're listening to and who authored. But the real thing here is forgo your fear, learn from your mistake and just move on. The staff were the ones who would come to me and say, yeah, it wasn't all that great, but it worked well. The Ontario Library Association now has a toolkit which includes tools to help you plan an event, including recruitment ideas, event proposals, interview questions, and participating in a human library or human book agreements, as well as human library graphics are available for download. The philosophy behind the human library is that everyone has a story to share. This type of event offers an opportunity for anyone from the care home to get to know an LGBTQ individual, to ask them questions, any questions they want, to learn that we are all humans with hopes and dreams who have experienced loss and love. Like everyone, we seek human connection. The Human Library is an excellent initiative, in my opinion, to help promote tolerance and celebrate diversity. So I wanted to transition the project from staff-only process to a resident and visitors process. And it was actually a process that was quite natural. I didn't think about it, but the residents heard the music that I was playing at the staff meetings, because of course I got better at playing better music, louder. And so when I went to the resident council, they asked me and what was going on. And so I thought, okay, well, I guess I'll just explain to you what we're doing. And to my surprise, every resident in attendance agreed that we should have the minutes reflect that all people, gay or straight, have the right to live and die expressing themselves for who they are without fear, and no one has the right to judge or ridicule anyone. And I have to say, that is almost verbatim exactly what they told me, and I was as shocked as anyone else at that table. Truly, well, I mean, you know what your residence councils are like, but I couldn't believe the real intensity of it. They went on, and I allowed it. I asked them, about their stories, and they started to tell me stories of the Jews in Nazi Germany, the stories of sisters who had lived down on the farm, who really they knew weren't sisters. They told of people who had lived sad and lonely lives, afraid to be who they are, afraid of prison, afraid of incarceration, afraid of death. I was never more proud than I was in that moment, because had been told by everybody, the residents are not going to respond well to this project and would never support an LGBTQ discussion. How wrong they were. Stop the silence. I invited the recreation department to reach out to the gay community, and soon we started placing on the activity councils the gay men's chorus or other choirs. Managers who said that they were afraid to have gay on the calendar and that it would provoke negative responses from families and residents. However, to be honest, that wasn't the case at all. No one took any notice, and the attendance, if anything, was overflowing. One resident told me after that those men can really sing and dance. Oh my. She was reminded of a fellow that she knew in the army. He was a good man, but I could tell he was a little different. But I didn't care. So be brave. Next, we invited the Gay Biker Club. Now that was a great day. Hot August afternoon, Sunday afternoon. We had free ice cream. Pulled out the ice cream cart, put it in the parking lot. Everyone came out. It was a great success. Visitors, family, everybody came out to see the gay bikers. One female resident told me that those boys looked so menacing when I went out, all that leather. But they were very polite, she said. And then she said that she was really sorry she couldn't go for a ride with one of them. So then when people say no, you have to say, well, why not? So when I asked the managers to place LGBTQ issues or concerns as a standing item on their departmental meeting agendas, I was so surprised because I'd been doing this at staff meetings for months now. So I'm like, well, I think you should put it on your department agendas. And so managers were like, no, we don't have any need for this. We don't have time for this. There are no LGBTQ issues, Rick. And so I said, well, maybe the reason is you don't have any is because you're not asking for them. So I had managers that were like, and I could just tell it was just going to be too hard. So I said, you know what, I'll come and I'll explain to everybody that this is my requirement. You're going to put it on your agenda and you're going to talk about it every month. And if I have to be there to be the one to say, start this, then that's what I'll do. And I did. And what was interesting was the reaction from all of their staff was the same. Okay, fine. And soon LGBTQ became common language within the home. So I just want to ask you, if in your group, just look around your group and say, how many times do I ever say the word homosexual? And it might tell you why you don't have any in your home. So now, when we talk about awareness and raising and making modifications to the physical environment, like having an inclusive space or a safe space and having stickers and pride flags so that everyone can see, it's important to emphasize that first, the organization must go through the effort of taking as many steps as possible to create an environment that's free from intolerance, hatred, or discrimination. It's not so simple as just put up a flag. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, it's discouraged. Don't put up anything until you're at such a time as you have had the LGBTQ sensitivity training for your teams, reviewed and modified policies and procedures to ensure that you have the mechanisms in place and that those within the organization have the conceptual frameworks to understand what it means. We flew the pride flag during Pride Week, and it did raise a few questions from families and visitors. In response, we placed a notice at the front door just explaining what we were doing and why we support Pride. And the flag was flying as proof of our commitment to creating a safe place for everyone to live. We expressed our support to the gay community and welcomed everyone to our home, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, religion, ethnicity, or other. Everyone is welcome and everyone is equally valued within these walls. Every person who entered the house that day read that. Be brave. Another time, I had a manager come to me and say that they were so thrilled with their son. He and his girlfriend had organized a support day at the high school to recognize the youth who had committed suicide due to homophobic bullying and harassment. The manager explained that he'd been talking to his son over supper about some of the things that we were doing in the care home when his son disclosed to him that he was running his own support within the school. So when the manager came to me, I said, well, when are we doing this? He said, today. So I said, okay. So we ran down, quickly made some posters, posted them up, put them that we support this the same as we do. And I told the manager's story of his son and what he was doing. And it was incredible. We didn't have any pins with neat ribbons. So we simply took some pink paper and cut them up to look like ribbons and put pins on them. And people wore them around that day in support of International Pink Day. Just fun, just easy, that's all. So 2 years since the project began, I was surprised when a staff member who I suspected might have been one of the people who had written some of the negative comments on the poster, I mean, hateful stuff. However, this guy comes to the staff meeting, and when it gets to the point on the agenda where we talk about LGBTQ issues or concerns, he stands up, proud as punch, holds up the newspaper from the Toronto mass gay weddings on June 27th, 2014. He tells us that he is so happy to see that there are so many people around the world that are now being free to live their life the way God had created them. And he explained that within his country, this would never happen. And Canada is a good country. It was interesting. All the staff clapped and told him how proud they were of him. And truly, you could feel it was one of those turning points within the culture of the home. And you're just like, take a moment just to feel it. So there are lots of things that we did, from the Human Library to the YouTube videos to any number of things that were simple, easy things. Moving forward, I had thought it would be a great thing to do to create monthly a gay day in history. So every month you could have a poster at the front of the building, and they'd be posters that would simply explain some event or some historical context that occurred on that day, which involved the LGBT community. For example, it could have been like the Harvey Milk Day or the decriminalization of homosexuality, Stonewall, Ellen DeGeneres comes out, anything along those lines, just to put it up so that it's there, it's current, it's something that your home is talking about. The intentions of these posters is to continually normalize and bring attention to interesting facts, both current and historical. I also think, like, if you really wanted to have some fun, you could make the posters by using residents within your home and use their pictures up, get their approval, and then you could make your Mad Poster project using actual residents within your home or staff within your home. Because think about it, if it's 10% of the population, that includes your staff too. So I think it would be amazing if you had a group where you could create a flash mob. I mean, Michelle, can you imagine just how much fun it would be? Go to a mall, take a bunch of people and just do, and at the end of it, at the end of your flash mob, everybody just has a sign that says at our home, we have a place where everyone lives free to be who they are. There are lots of different ways that you can be an ally. And I'd encourage you to explore the resources of the Mount Sinai website, which includes videos and tips for being an ally, including discussion questions to facilitate a conversation within a viewing group. These videos are also available in French. A few other strategies include acknowledge a family of choice. For an older LGBTQ individuals, care networks are often made up of friends and neighbors referred to as a family of choice. So instead of asking a new male resident about his wife, ask him, who are the significant people in your life? And if he tells you about his partner or his husband, don't refer to that person as their friend, but instead listen and use the language that they have used. Use inclusive, gender-neutral language. Don't make assumptions. Ask someone what their pronouns are, or better yet, introduce yourself by telling them your pronouns so that you convey to them how aware and sensitive you are. Explore the CLRI resources for tips on language. Be respectful of intimacy and sexual needs. Remember, as humans, we all have intimacy and sexual needs throughout our lives. In the later stages of life, these needs often go unmet for a multitude of reasons. Sometimes it's because of negative attitudes held by care workers. It's important to remember that everyone deserves the right to intimacy and that our own values and beliefs need to be left at the door. Michelle?
Wow, Rick, thank you. You have
Yeah.
such an amazing story. Your bravery is truly inspirational. Thank you for sharing with us the details of your journey.
Thanks for having me.
We wanted to touch again right at the end here about graffiti, just for a moment. The whole thing that inspired Rick's project in the first place as he traveled through the dark tunnel in New York City. I wanted to reflect a bit about how things have changed and how society is in fact shifting in a major way. Walking around downtown Toronto along Church Street, which is the heart of Toronto's gay village, there's a fabulous graffiti project, which was launched in 2013 in preparation for Toronto hosting World Pride in 2014. This mural project is one of Canada's largest outdoor art projects. Each mural strengthens and celebrates the diverse identity of the neighborhood and offers a visual story of the rich political, historical, and cultural significance of the LGBTQ neighborhood. If you are in the Toronto area and have not experienced these murals, I would really encourage you to take a walk down Church Street and spend some time looking at the murals, reflect a bit on the history of these folks, reflect about the meaning, take a listen to some of the songs that are listed in the resource package, watch some of the videos that we've recommended, and really just take a moment to pause and think about what this all means for older adults who are LGBTQ and the impacts of the life that they've lived. And if you're looking for more inspiration and ideas of things to do, there's been a lot of recent buzz online from various long-term care homes, and I wanted to just share a couple of those little highlights that I've come across recently. So there's several homes around the province that are already doing some wonderful things to support the LGBTQ community. They're hosting pride events, they're having drag queens come to perform for residents, they're providing training across their organization. One recent initiative that's been widely shared on social media is the Schlegel Village's home, Village of Winston Park, recently set up one of their elder wisdom benches at a local pride event. And we've got some pictures of that on the screen if you want to take a read through the articles that talk about it. It was wonderful to see young and old coming together and having conversations on these simple park benches. We'd love to hear from you about what your long-term care home has been doing, so please let us know either in the chat box or you can always connect with us directly. For over a decade, Fudge Your House, one of the City of Toronto homes, has been seen as a leader in supporting the LGBTQ community. And they were instrumental in developing the LGBTQ toolkit that Rick mentioned earlier that's also listed in our resource guide. Highlighted here are some images from their recent Pride celebrations. You can check out the link to learn a little bit more about what they've been up to. Another home I just wanted to briefly highlight is the Rakai Centres in Toronto. They are working towards creating an LGBTQ home area, the first in Canada. This is an idea that many individuals from the LGBTQ community are very supportive of and asking for. And yet, like all things, it's complicated, and there are some LGBTQ individuals who do not want to live in a separate home area, but instead want to be included and feel safe and respected within the broader community of a long-term care home.
Agreed.
The Rakai Centres held a webinar last August in collaboration with the OARC, highlighting lessons learned from their journey. We've included a link to that recording in the resource list.
So how you go about making the change for a culture within your home really is up to you, but it is up to you. So don't look to others to be an advocate or the leader, but instead look inward. Muster the courage that you need to make a difference, for no one else will do it but you. Don't look for a step-by-step manual because you won't find one. There are some compiled resources within the package and gives you some ideas and tools to utilize, but ultimately you need to consider the context of your organization and the individuals who live and work there, and chart a course for together with the team you can make a difference. Everyone's home is unique, but if you take no action, you can take no pride. My contact number is included on the handouts. Everyone's journey is unique. Leadership begins when you say to yourself, I can make a difference, or at least I can try. After all, I am what I am.
So we invite you now to write in the chat box something that maybe you're going to do to bring these ideas alive in your care home. I also invite you to ask any questions that you may have as well. We want to hear from you a little bit how you're going to be brave. What are you going to do to make a difference? What from what Rick has shared today has maybe inspired you, something that you think might be doable at your home? So if you have any questions, please type them in. We do have a couple that we've pulled from the registration. One of the questions we asked was, do you have any situations or scenarios that you've experienced that you're looking for a bit of guidance on? So wanted to just highlight a couple of those and hear from Rick a bit what his thoughts are. So one of you had indicated that you had a poster of a local LGBTQ workshop that was posted in a staff room and that it was taken down the next day by staff. So Rick, what would you do?
I put up another poster. Yeah, no, I would. I've had this many times.
Mhm.
I repost what you've got, and if it's a poster that you don't have to repost, then take the information that you know was there and post it back up. And on that, I have before put a sticky note that said, this is important to me, and I hope, and it should be important to you, and left it there. And I've come back and found the poster gone and the sticky note too. But I next day did it again, and I did it again, and it will happen until they stop doing it. And I think it speaks to both the person who's taking it down, but it also speaks to all the others who realize that you are dogged about your intention to provide support. Okay, that's what I do.
Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Another question kind of along similar lines. So a home has put up a pride flag on their flagpole at the front entrance, and one council member is asking for it to be removed.
Okay, so I've worked both profit, not-for-profit, and municipal, and I would say it is hard to get municipal always in agreement on everything. However, at the same point, I would say I had this exact thing. So you take the flag down, you try and figure out what you need to do to get it approved so that that council member isn't blocking you, and then you put it back up. Again, we did this, and then we put up a poster that just explained at the front door why there was a gay flag flying on our flagpole. But yeah, just put your ducks in order.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's another question here. What do you do when there's a lack of interest from senior management and that is the biggest challenge?
Okay, so I'm going to take this from two directions. One, from senior management, being I am the senior manager in the care home, and that means all my senior management team need to be on board with this with me. And if I haven't done the groundwork and they're not on board, then I need to do that work. Mm-hmm. And that means they need to understand why this is important. It's not frivolous. It is absolutely imperative for a person to live a happy life. They have to be who they are. If, however, this is coming from like a line staff to the management team and they see them as being an obstacle, then I would say write a complaint. Accreditation looks at all of your complaints. So, I mean, you might not get the quick response that you're thinking, but you will get a response. Every one of those gets gone through by the ministry too. So I would talk to whoever it is everyone has a boss. So talk to the boss and find out why this attitude prevails and change it.
So we've had a couple people ask a sort of similar question that, which is, how can staff bring up the topic of LGBTQ inclusion to senior staff? And what I would suggest is that we've just done this webinar. This webinar is recorded. You can share that link with anyone from your leadership team. You could say, hey, we just took part in this webinar. It was great. Take a watch. You could also provide the resource package that we've given as a handout to those folks to encourage them to start reading and thinking about it. Another thing you could do is just take one of Rick's great ideas, which is, look at some of those music videos and historical videos, pick one that really speaks to you, and then maybe ask if you can show that at a leadership team meeting or at a general staff meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the Callum Scotts or the Sam Smiths, all of them really topical and really current and absolute perfect message.
Okay, so we're out of time for now, but I do want to encourage everyone to sign up for our next webinar. So this is the first in a series of 2. So the next one's coming up August 22nd. The registration link is there on your screen. I encourage you to all sign up as we're going to be exploring more of these real scenarios and real questions that are coming up. So I wanted to thank you sincerely, Rick, for your time, for your
Thank you.
passion, your enthusiasm, and for your humor.
Well, thank you,
You've been a
Michelle.
delightful inspiration, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Oh, I loved it. I truly did. I mean, thank you for this incredible opportunity. Thank you all for tuning in. If you want to contact me, my number's there, so please feel free to do that. Other than that, I just want to say I really, really hope we make a change, because when I move into long-term care, I am not going to be a quiet resident who will sit invisible. So I just want to say thank you, truly. Thanks, folks.